Hello everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you about the new/recent releases that I've read in the past few months. So I only have 6 to talk to you about, and then after I want to talk to you about the ones that might be coming up next that I'm interested in, because there are like so many and I kind of need your help to decide what I should prioritize, because I have access to like so many, especially on audiobook, because that's how I consume most of my new releases, so I don't have to buy everything else. But yeah, anyway, first let's talk about the books that I have read. So as usual, I'm going to go from the one I like the least to the one I like the most. So the one I liked the least, unfortunately, was Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. I'm really sad I didn't like this because I really like what this was doing in a way, and just Rivers Solomon as a person. They are a non-binary author, and there are like a lot of non-binary characters in this book, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it, of course, because I haven't read a lot of books by non-binary authors and just with non-binary characters, so kudos to them for that. But the overall book I didn't enjoy. I mean, first of all, like, it's literally called Sorrowland, so I guess I should have expected for it to be bleak to some extent, but I didn't know what I was getting into. So Sorrowland follows this person, so not women, what do you call, how does she call herself? I don't even remember how they call themselves. It's so she has 2 kids and she tries to protect them, and she has run away from this compound, which is basically like a cult, and it's a cult of black people who fight against society and white supremacists pretty much. And that premise like was kind of interesting, but so she's very sick and there's a fungus, something that is growing like out of her, and that's the part that is pretty much speculative. But I don't know, like, all of this book already like hasn't really stuck to in my head, and it just felt so, yeah, bleak and hopeless for the most part. And like I was a little bit interested in knowing the ending, like how things would actually evolve, but ultimately I think I don't know, it was pretty clear where it was going, and the actual execution like didn't do much for me at all. Yeah, I didn't really feel for these characters. Yeah, so her 2 kids like grow up little by little, so Farrell and who was the other one? I don't remember. And there's a lot of talk about sex and bodies, and that makes me really icky. Like, there's a specific way of describing bodies sometimes in books that make me feel weird, and actually even in real life, like, bodies sometimes make me feel weird outside of sex, and so for that I didn't enjoy. Like, it reminded me of when I tried to read Black Leopard White Wolf by Marlon James. I DNF'd that one because it was making me feel weird, and that one was just like this in the way of describing bodies, so not for me at all. Like, I remember reading a review of Black Leopard Red Wolf, and a woman who was saying that even though she was a med student, like, this book made her feel even weirder than actually like doing things to people in real life. So that's just to explain to you like the feeling that this creates in me. So yeah, very uncomfortable. But yeah, besides that, just it didn't really go anywhere. Like, the whole speculative aspect just really goes in weird places, I feel, and it's like there's a lot of action towards the end that I feel is very unnecessary, and I didn't think was exciting or anything. I just wanted it to end, and this book almost put me into a slump because I wanted to finish it, but I also didn't want to finish it, and yeah. But I saw lots of people enjoy it, so if this book still sounds interesting to you, like go for it, and I would love to talk to you about it actually, and to understand what people love about this book, because I feel like I am really the minority in not liking it. So that was something. Then I read A Complicated Love Story Set in Space by Shaun Hutchinson. So I read another book by him not long before, which was whatever, something, I will put it here. And actually this one kind of felt like a sequel, even though it's not. And yeah, like, so the previous I read by him was sci-fi to some extent, but you weren't really sure if it was sci-fi because maybe it was all in the character's head, because he was having like mental health issues, and this one was full-blown sci-fi. And so, and just what happens, like I said, I won't spoil you the ending of the other one, but yeah, it just felt like a sequel in the beginning, but it's completely different characters. I mean, not completely, because they also feel the same, and that's something that I don't love, like in books, when like books are supposed to be completely different and you just get pretty much the same character. So yeah, but if you liked that previous book, I think you would enjoy this one as well. Even though, so there's like this huge plot. They're on a spaceship, and they don't know how they ended up there. So that's how the book starts. And you have this young guy, and immediately after he wakes up, actually, he has to save the spaceship or something. And there's this other guy who helps him do it. Like, he's not here with him, but he is linked to him, so he can talk to him, and they immediately like become friends and just try to save themselves basically, and he has to explain to him and trying to calm him so that they can save each other. And so that's how the book starts, like a lot of action. And actually, like, it was a really good experience on audiobook, even though I didn't love the book, because it's narrated by Kevin R. Free, who I love so much, because he narrates the Murderbot Diaries. And actually I thought it was so interesting because what happens in this book is kind of similar to what happens to Murderbots in general. So it's like, it just was a very meta experience for me, because it's like, yeah, just this book really resonated with Murderbot because it uses the same narrator, so I could just feel like I was already in the same vibe from the first second because of his voice. And I think that's really done on purpose, and I've seen this done actually multiple times for narrators. Like, they use the same narrators for books that sound the same. And yeah, I don't know how to feel about this, but I think that's so interesting, and pretty much I think it's done on purpose. So kudos to the person who chose the same narrator. Like, wow, that was a nice touch. But yeah, so you have these two characters, and then there's another girl that we get to know, and they have to figure out why they're on this spaceship, how they ended up there, and how to maybe like get back to their lives. In the end, yeah, like, the explanation as to what happened to them isn't that satisfying to me at all, and it was pretty like cliche also, like their relationships and just all of their characters, the way they interacted. There was nothing very special about this book, to be honest. It was fun, I guess, but that's it. Yeah, I don't have nothing more to say, to be honest. Then I read The Red Pill very recently by Kunzru. So I really liked his previous book, White Tears, and this one kind of felt similar, but so it follows this guy who is an author, and he gets a fellowship in Berlin. So he moves there. He's originally from the US, and his wife is back there, and he writes poetry. And so in the beginning, like, he talks about how like people don't take him seriously because he writes poetry, so it's not like he is writing like a novel or something. So I just really like all the culture of like writers. I love books about writers and all of that stuff, because like I would love to write a book, to be honest. So, and I'm just fascinated by all of that world, like about books. Obviously, this also what I do booktube, I guess. Just publishing. I find it super interesting, and there. So he was in this building around like a lot of people who also are authors, and from the beginning, like, he's kind of an asshole, to be honest. Like, this character, I find it very unlikable, and usually, like, I'm used to unlikable characters, but I find them likable, unlike most people, whereas like this one I really found unlikable for the most part. And so yeah, so he comes to Berlin, right? He doesn't know the city at all. He discovers it like little by little. Like the author describes how he like walks around the city and starts to discover it for himself, and he like is questioning his life a little bit, and he keeps going to this statue of I think another poet who lived like more than, I don't know, whenever he lived, I don't remember, and who ended up killing himself. And so he talks about that and his poems a little bit. I don't know, this book is a little bit of a mess, but it is interesting to some extent. Like, yeah, he just talks about society, about writing, and I do like his vision of society, his take on it. And then he meets this woman who works in the compound where he is living, and she has a story to tell, which takes place in like East Germany, where like a lot of years ago, when things were still separated between like the East and the West. And that part was like so interesting, and actually, like, similarly to White Tears, I often found that like the subplots that Kunzru creates are more interesting than the actual like main plot, and I was disappointed because of that a little bit, but still. So a link to that story that I won't tell you, he meets this guy who is an actor, and he becomes obsessed with him, and the story goes on from there with his obsession. And that also was very similar to White Tears, so it does feel a little bit recycled, but it was another story. So ultimately, like, I did enjoy it, but I think it could have been a lot better. So I don't know. And towards the end, like, it kind of deals into politics and even more existential crisis. I found that interesting, but I don't know how to feel about this book, to be honest. Like, it's, I don't know, it did make me think about how people with issues are treated, and how like he kept saying, as long as you don't feel good like about your life, then you must be sick. And but they never stop to think that maybe it's normal and it's actually healthy to not feel good about the world, because the world is a crazy place, and like, how can you feel okay about it? And I do agree with that, and like I had a discussion with some of my friends actually about that, because like I also don't feel good about the world sometimes. Like, I am a pretty optimistic person, but from time to time I'm like, this world is just, it's a mess. And so yeah, for that, like, I really enjoyed that book. And so when I was talking to my friends, they were like, yeah, but the problem is when this starts to impact your life, and if you're really like sad all the time, like, you should do something about that. And I did agree with that, and that's kind of what happens to the character. So in this book, so he ends up having to find a way out of this hole that he built for himself, and so yeah, I think it does explore like mental health to some issue, and actually it reminds me a little bit of the characters that Bret Easton Ellis like creates in his books, all these issues that they have with society. I feel like Kunzru and Bret Easton Ellis would get along, to be honest, but yeah, but this is more interesting, I think, than Bret Easton Ellis. But I don't know, it's like, I don't think the book is amazing, but it also has some really good parts. So, and And just all in all, like, it makes me feel so weird because you never know kind of like what is his obsession and what is actually reality. And it frustrates me, but also I like it. And I've read a few books like that, and I still don't know how to talk about that really, but it's like a really specific feeling when you're reading and you don't know like what is happening, and so you get really invested because you're trying to focus like on all of the details and fixing the mystery of what is happening, I guess. So yeah, interesting. Then I read Watchful for Me by Nina LaCour like a few months ago already. This kind of made the rounds like on booktube, and I understand why. Like, I have loved previously We Are Okay by Nina LaCour, and this one was just as good, if no, actually no, I still prefer We Are Okay, but it was very good. But for me, like, this was a short book though. Like, I remember it follows a girl who gets accepted or something into this community, and she has to work there with a kid, I think. I read it so long ago, honestly, like I think in December, so bear with me. But yeah, like, I liked how it talked about found family and just how much like she cared about this kid, and she tried to help him or her, I don't really remember, I think it was a him. And then some things happened, but ultimately, like, when I read a book, what I remember is like the feelings, and this book made me feel just a lot of warmth, but not only because it is like complicated, it's also about like the hurt, like being alone, and how much you want to be loved, I guess, and that's something that I'm very interested in to explore, I guess, and just any kinds of feelings, to be honest. So yeah, I thought it was really raw, actually, this book, and but in a good way, you know. And it's a very short book, so I would definitely recommend it. Then I read No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood, which is still nominated for the Women's Prize, I think. So that's not why I wanted to read it, actually, but I read it around that time a few months ago. So this was such a weird book, like, so this book is kind of set into two parts. So like the first part is very like stream of consciousness, and is all about this woman and this space where that she evolves in, which is pretty much like Twitter. I don't remember the name actually anymore of how they called it, but so it like it's like so much is happening really quickly, and she gets famous for just for a tweet, basically, and she talks about all of those tweets that she's reading. I mean, she doesn't call them tweets, I think, because I mean, probably she wasn't allowed to call them tweets, you know, like for rights, but she calls them something else, and but it's basically like that. And so it's just a novel about like how being so connected is making you less connected. Like, I guess it's a lot of ideas that we already know nowadays, that we do talk about a lot, so it's nothing new, but the way that she did it was really good. Like, I love the way that she wrote, honestly. I never knew her like before, but now I have learned she's a poet, so it really comes out in how lyrical her writing can be sometimes. But it's definitely like very stream of consciousness, so if you don't like that style, like, this is not gonna work for you. And it's just a lot about, yeah, about society and being connected. So that's like the first part, and then the second part is more like, it's autofiction. So autofiction is part like autobiography and fiction, and so I mean, the author, but also like the character, talks about what happens to her family, and specifically like with the birth of a daughter, I think it was, or like something that happens, or no, actually, was it a death? Oh my god, I can't remember anything today, but there's something that happens in that family. It's about how they go through it, so it was a lot more raw and very different, and the change in tone I really appreciated, because it just shows yeah, just how life is, you know, like you are very connected and you feel almost nothing, and then there might be like so much happening outside of that that is actually real and makes you feel, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, there was that. Then I read Fugitive, Telemetry by Martha Wells, which was the 6th book in the Murderbot Diaries, and again, I loved that book so much. I love every book in the Murderbot Diaries. If you haven't read it before, you really should. So you know, like Murderbot is a robot who is originally created like to kill people. He's a security bot, but he has fought his government module to actually be able to think for himself and be in control of his actions, and he tries to help humans even though a lot of times they don't even help themselves, and he gets frustrated with humans, and he just wishes he could be home, I mean whatever is his home, watching TV, you know, watching TV shows, and can't you relate? Right? Yeah, it's always so good, this series, and this one, which is like the other ones, like I never remember that many specifics, to be honest, but it is very, very good, and yeah, don't really know what else to say. I love it, and I highly recommend you check it out. Now, I did want to tell you about the next book that I might be reading, so definitely I'm going to be reading Filthy Animals by Braden Taylor very soon when it comes out, because I have pre-ordered it, so that's what I'm going to read. I loved Real Life by Braden Taylor last year, so I'm so excited for this release. Then I've been really interested in The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. I've heard a lot about this book recently. I think it's a thriller, but it also takes place maybe in a publishing house? I don't remember exactly. I keep hearing the plot and then forgetting it, because that's how I am. But it did sound really interesting, so if you're interested, also I will put like a link to the shelf that I have on Goodreads of 21 releases if you want to see more. But yeah, this one really sounded super interesting. And then there is Languages of Truth, essays from 2003 to 2020 by Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie is one of my favorite authors, and lately I've really been into essays, so this collection just seemed like perfect, so I put it on hold at the library, and I hope I will get it soon to listen to it. I think he narrates like part of the essays as well, so that sounds really cool. Then there was The Plot by Jean Han Corelitz that I was really interested in. I think this is a thriller as well, and it's about an author who stole the idea of another author who was dead, and but then, so they thought they could get away with it because the person is dead, right? But after like a few months they get a letter, I think, that says something like "I know you did," or like something, anyway, I don't remember exactly, and it's about what goes on from there. I know it's like very short, so I'm interested in that. Then there's a new book by A.S. King that came out, which is called Switch and is YA. I really like A.S. King, so I think I'm pretty sure I'm gonna read it. Then there's The Baby Is Mine by Oaken Braithwaite. I read last year her previous book, which was My Sister the Serial Killer, and I did enjoy it to some extent. Like, I didn't love it, but it was fine, so I'm interested in this one, and it's very, very short, like it's only 2 hours on audiobook, so I might get to that. Then there is Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch by Rivka Galchin. don't remember the synopsis, but I do remember it was interesting. And I don't know, yeah, I like this cover. It's simple, but it's pretty. There's also Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid that has just come out. I wasn't sure I wanted to read it, to be honest, but I did really enjoy her previous book, which was it, Days, Angels and the Six. So I do think I could be interested in that one. I put it on hold at the library. Let's see. Then there is volume 4 of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. It's the only book by Alice Oseman that I have not read. I have loved the Heartstopper series so far, so I think I'm going to read it as well soon. Then I have like a lot of sequels that I need to read, but maybe not now, but soon. So I have like the Wayfarers series. The last book has come out. Bone season 4 that I have, so The Mask Falling, that I'm so interested in. There's also like another book in the Tex Kalan series that just came out like recently, and I have an audiobook. And then I also have The Committed that came out by Yin Tang Gwen that I have just right here actually, that I do want to read. Then I keep hearing about Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Shigeru, and I don't know, like I really want to read it, and I was going to for a little bit, and then I lost interest, and then I kept getting interested, and I don't know. I think I'm definitely gonna read it sometime, but I don't know how soon, so tell me if you're interested in me reading this and reviewing it. And then another that I was like really interested in and came out like in the beginning of the year is A Swim in the Pond in the Rain by George Saunders. This is apparently like about 4 short stories, 4 Russian short stories specifically, and George Saunders like narrates them but also after analyzes them, so it just sounds super interesting, and I love anything about like writing and just literary things. I'm a huge nerd, so this just keeps sounding like exactly my thing, so I need it. But the thing is, I need to buy the audiobook, and I don't want to buy anything right now, so that's the only reason I haven't read it yet. But if I buy anything in the next few weeks or months, I think it's gonna be this for sure. So yeah, lots of books to look forward to. Please tell me if there is any one specific book or multiple that you would be interested in me reading and reviewing. If you want to know like if it's good, I don't know. Or if you also have like other 2021 releases that you're excited for, like please tell me. Or also if you've read the books that I talk about, please tell me like what you thought of them. I would love to know and have a discussion. But yeah, that's all for me for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. Goodbye. Dream I know, deep up my feelings.